he's looking like. So without further ado, we are here on 2000 atmospheres, and in the bottom left, it's the Protoss player. His name is Ranger.
And his opponent in the top right, he loves Australia. It is none other than RiSky.
What a great decal. He had Pez yesterday.
Yeah, I like that he changed the image day to day.
Yeah. Maybe the next day we'll see Probe or someone in there. But yeah. Oh. Nice memes. It has been a spicy time for RiSky in this region. And players definitely have some scores to settle on the battleground, but I do love to see a few of the memes popping out here from RiSky's side. Very cool.
I like Ranger's plushie there, cheering him on in the background on the bed. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Maybe a squirrel or some sort of forest critter. But I definitely think it's going to give him some luck, bring him some good vibes today.
Yep, plus 10 to micro. And Ranger, actually, I'm not entirely sure how to say his team name, but he is on M8 Hexa or Mate Hexa. I'm not sure how you say it. But very cool to see him get picked up on a team. RiSky, on the other hand, is teamless, guys. What the hell? This guy's a beast.
Beast. RiSky is, he really is such a monster and so powerful and consistent, and do hope to see he finds himself another home soon. He is going to, of course, for now, just be working his way forward a little bit and into that macro stage. RiSky not opting for any of those super quick thirds yesterday or today. And this is where I think all eyes are on Ranger for where he wants to take the game. No warp gate starting up. And then it does start up. Okay, is it a fake, though, or not? We'll find out in a moment as he progresses his tech. Doesn't cancel it, so it looks like we're seeing a Twilight opening.
Yep, right you are. Down goes that Twilight from Ranger. And I mean, he might have looked at yesterday's games too and gone like, what should I adjust here? After, getting a little bit of data from playing him the first two times and then going back to the drawing board and seeing how he might actually survive the decider match here. So does manage to get in with a couple of lings. Does RiSky. Very nice scout.
Oh, that's actually a real bummer for Ranger because he gets distracted and that loses him the Adept on the front and he gets scouted there in the base. So a good start for RiSky, and definitely Ranger looked a little bit frustrated for a moment there. Not how he wanted things to open up.
And as a reminder, folks, this is a Group B match. And T-Ball has already popped out in first place for this group. So RiSky and Ranger are what's left of Group B, having had Ender excused from the tournament yesterday, very surprisingly. So they are fighting to stay alive and get that spot in the playoffs bracket, that top 4 position.
It's going to be a quick Roach Warren for RiSky, so it looks like he's opting for the 3 Ravager response to this build order. He knows it's Glaive Adepts, and he's not investing in any Spore Crawlers. He's just going to get out a couple of Ravagers, use Zerglings to surround them as they shade past. And that is, in my mind, the best way of shutting this down. So Ranger's going to have to be very careful with the execution to try and exert pressure, but also not throw his Adepts away.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy to get a little bit over-eager with those Adepts. And RiSky is well-versed in defending against this. Of course, you have the Roaches at the beefy front line, I meant to say, and the Lings that can chase around the Shades and also join in the fray when appropriate. So he's definitely read this quite well. He should have plenty of units. Let's see how this goes as Ranger picks the spot to start the warp in right on the edge of creep there. Overlord will go down in the main of Ranger. Not quite enough to supply block RiSky, but in come the Shades, not going to commit there.
Yeah, it's a rather non-committal Adept count. Warping in one of the homes so the Stalker can chase down the Overlord and only really warping in a few Adepts at a time. This is a light pressure and RiSky needs to get a move on with his workers, but Prism needs to dodge that. Oh, barely gets out of there.
Really nicely done. doesn't yet commit to the shades. There's a DT shrine going down behind this, and RiSky knows that he's got enough to deal with the amount of adepts that are out here already. He's not sure that Ranger's ever actually going to fully shade in, so he just goes back to droning. He's got one more round of links coming out, heading into lair, but he's feeling pretty comfortable right now.
Ranger not losing any adepts just to these shades yet, but definitely keeping that worker advantage. He's got the third on the way. The Dark Shrine is coming as well. RiSky playing very well defensively, but I like the way Ranger just treads water, threatens a little bit, sharks around, and heads home. This is really... He could not commit. If he committed in, Ranger was going to take a bad fight. But as it is, I like his position. He's building Immortals. Sentry's starting to warp in. Baneling Nest is on the way here for RiSky, but RiSky, I think, more than anything, should be focused on his worker count.
These adepts meet up with a couple of Ravagers here in the middle. They shade up in one direction and run in the other. Still just using those to keep map vision, try and clear up the towers, pick off anything that he can see. Warp Prism's still on the field as well. RiSky is well aware of that, though. He's got a Spore in position and those patrolling Lings on the edge of the main, just in case Ranger tries to come in. He catches these adepts out.
Ooh, that's a nice catch. And the Spore is waiting. The CT is going to drop on top. Using it to micro is nice, but the Prism's so low. And he's going to go, wow, well microed by Ranger. I was talking about his Prism micro earlier, and I really think that is one of the strongest skills he has. He is an absolutely world-class Warp Prism microer, but unfortunately for him, the Prism's so low. The Overseer does come up, doesn't find huge damage there. Does lose a lot of his adepts on the map, so RiSky finally back in the driver's seat with the economy. He's got the worker advantage. He's going to add the Evolution Chamber, work to the next step. And in a game that looked like Ranger was probably going to crawl away with just a bit too much economy, a bit too much efficiency, now RiSky's back in it.
Yeah, and he's continuing to get his tech. He's now thinking about getting an upgrade there with that Evo coming up to finish. And he's feeling pretty comfy to just slap down that fourth base and power the droning a little bit. This Warp Prism's going to try again to come in here. Not sure he's going to have too much success. Archons can always do a little bit of damage, but got to pick those up before they get too fresh on those shields. There we go. And Disruptors are coming into the mix behind this as well. I really do like how Ranger's continuing to be active on the map with whatever small force he has.
Indeed. I think he's one of the best at just kind of skirmishing in the mid game. So, curious, did he make Blink?
I don't think he did.
Okay. I'm kind of interested to see where he goes next, because we haven't seen any Forge upgrades just yet, right? He's making Disruptors, but it's almost looking like he's just going to do a raw gateway timing.
Man, lost that Archon. He's got 2 more DTs warping in. Where's that at?
Oh, he's just going for a basic push. Oh, this is a real special one. It's all just unupgraded gateway units. He's just like, yep, Zealots for tanking, Stalkers for shooting, Sentries for force fields. I got an Immortal in there, and I got Disruptors. Let's go. This is a very surprising push at a surprising moment in the game. But it's a lot of Ravagers for RiSky. I don't know. This is going to be a real close fight either way. 4 sentries there looking good. And, oh, a nice position. This is so scary. The Disruptor's so good here.
Yes, using the force fields beautifully so far. But now the Roaches are actually able to get up in Ranger's face. There's 2 DTs on the left-hand side that he warped in just before. They're looking for an opportunity here as well. I don't believe there's an Overseer over this army. As Roaches getting right on top of some of those juicy units. That one Immortal getting very low, but Ranger is continuing to press forward, tickling that 4th hatchery when he's not forced to engage the Roaches. Looks like he will get that base. Ooh, a few good bile hits in the middle there, though.
That's a wild timing attack here from Ranger. He's going to keep those Immortals alive. Does lose one. Oh, no, actually, I think he saves them both, but quite a few Stalkers going down on the way home. His DTs went in, got 11. Got a few more workers, and they do retreat on the left side of the map, eventually not finding quite enough. Oh, he's doing some very fancy Immortal micro, but Ranger's got to be careful. He's got to keep those units alive. He's built a nice position for himself, locking RiSky on low tier, mostly Roach Ravage attack for Ranger. If he could defend the 4th, he'd be in a great spot, but that's a big ask right now.
More biles coming down. They are dodged by Ranger as he moves forward again, using the Disruptor to force RiSky right back for a moment there. This is still a scary force to deal with. He's got kind of limited room to micro against those bile shots. Always a little bit tricky to dodge. But so far, so good. He does have the defender's advantage here. Got a good number of stalkers there as well. More disruptors coming to the mix too. Now he's heading up while RiSky is still in the middle of the map. He sees Ranger poking down this Overlord. It looks like he is going to turn around and try and engage this.
Ranger likes to be the one attacking. He likes to be the one going first and kind of on the front foot. But this creep is going to be a very big advantage for RiSky, who's flanking him. RiSky setting up a big flank from the left. RiSky with a big move, catches the Disruptor on the rear, coming in from both sides. There's no force fields left. The Disruptor's trying to protect themselves, but the Roaches focus them down. This is a fantastic surround from RiSky.
Files falling on a couple of the Immortals. And those Disruptors, kind of a non-event at this point. He has chewed through the southern side of that attack, and he has just enough left to keep pushing up on the north side. Another warp in comes in. I really thought the Ranger was going to lose all of his forces there, but with that warp prism on basically -2 health, he somehow held on here and still denying mining at that fourth base. There's a fifth hatchery down for RiSky as well, even while he's defending here.
Yeah, that prism really was clutch. If that goes down, you can't warp into the fight. Like, you get overwhelmed. You lose those stalkers, the disruptors. Things go in Risky's favor. But now RiSky had only 59 drones. Yeah, he's going up to 5 hatcheries. But, I mean, what use is that?
Oh, my God. Dude. Oh, my goodness. I can't believe that War Prism's still alive. That one disruptor is doomed to a death by Queen Darts. And now Ranger has been pushed pretty far back out of the Zerg territory. RiSky now has a solid Bane count with this Roach Ling army, though, and he's coming in towards that fourth base of Ranger. Oh, popped him.
3 going down. Another big disruptor shot comes out, gets a whole lot of these Banelings. These Stalkers do not have blink, but battery overcharge is good. RiSky's got to get out of here. Oh, his Banelings find the center of the Zealots, but not enough to actually kill them. They're just wounded. Shield battery tops them right back up. And I mean, Ranger here with such a curious attack. He says, you know what happens if I show you everything looks normal? I'm making a big army. I'm making lots of tech, but I'm making lots of economy at the same time. I mean, there's no clear sign that this attacks were going to be so powerful. It's because Ranger delayed all of his upgrades. He can't forge. He can't blink. He's only now making charge. And look at this position he finds himself in. Another flanking disruptor shot. This is what he is the best at. When you give Ranger prisms, you let him micro disruptor shots around, you let him be attacking and moving all around the map. This is where he thrives.
He's looking quite good. I'm very impressed by his play so far. These disruptors really been well worth the investment. And he's still got that very hurt prism working magic wherever possible. This one queen getting a little fresh on the front lines here, but he's pressuring this hatchery, looking to see if he can take it out. RiSky's got a pretty nice spread, a few Banelings in the mix once again. Bit of friendly fire in that disruptor shot as well, but a lot of Lings coming in. There's not a whole lot of Zealots to actually help out these forces. Is Ranger finally going to lose a chunk of this army? It looks like it.
Yeah, he will, but those Ravagers are also very exposed. And the Disruptor capitalizes. 5 Ravagers in 1 Disruptor shot. The Purification Nova landing. This is still very close, though, because remember, there really is so little behind this. Ranger's finally making blink, but he's only got +1. There's only +1 melee for the Zerg. You got to remember, though, those Lings can come in. They're very good. A Colossus, though. Oh, that's so good versus the Zerglings.
Yeah, that's really going to help out, especially as that +2 melee kicks in for the Zerglings. It's going to be a little bit harder to keep those Stalkers alive, especially once there's not a lot of buffer left. Already, it's mostly Stalker Disruptor here with the 1 Colossus. Blink not too far off finishing. He's going to deny one of those Ravagers from morphing, and he's just keeping up the pressure. DT on the front lines here, unfortunately, will get spotted, but perhaps another denial on this 5th base. Ooh, there's the cancel. Actually gets a kill.
Wow, these disruptor shots on microed so nicely from Ranger as well. He's doing such a good job with him. The Colossus is weak, but weak is not dead, and that Colossus still raining down death and destruction. And this is it. I think Ranger has managed to take game 1 off RiSky. He's pushing through. He's way up in supply. He's got rid of the 5th base. It's just a couple of Roaches and Ravagers left, and the Disruptors are still there. They're moving up so close. And just taking out these Ravagers even as they finish morphing. The Queens are going down. The Stalkers finally have blink 15 minutes into this game, and another juicy shot. I mean, RiSky's just up against the wall. Ranger takes map 1.
Wow, what a performance from the Malaysian player. That's unreal. Ranger's playing out of his mind, man. This is a regional champion that he's going up against, and he's making such a sick game of it. Takes the first map. I am so impressed right now.
It's crazy. I used to always think this style was wild, and it was like a few seasons ago casting Ranger do a really back and forth game with the same style where I was like, I am begrudgingly like, you're earning a respect for this style of just attacking with stalkers and disruptors non-stop. And since then I saw like Parting do it a lot and a few other players who are just, if they're attacking Zerg, they're winning. And Ranger is one of these guys. You give him that unit set. The disruptors got so much value in that game. That was awesome.
Yeah, and this was kind of non-stop action. The Warp Prism play from Ranger was phenomenal. He was in here with DTs. They didn't actually do that much damage because RiSky was on top of it, but from there he was pushing with whatever he had, and RiSky held on valiantly. He had this 6 around in this fight, but this is sort of a turning point as well. It looked like he had the sickest position, but Ranger cleans it up. He keeps the Warp Prism alive, and so the push doesn't actually end. And he continued his pressure. These disruptor shots were beautiful. He got some really juicy ones throughout this.
I think RiSky will be so sad about that one last bile. We even saw it in the replay before that it was just off center from the prism, and it was like, oh, if that hit, man. It just hit the dirt next to the Warp Prism. There's a lot going on in those fights. One of your many corrosive biles, but at the end of that, Ranger comes out victorious, and just a cool little adjustment. It's like sometimes you look at this and it can seem like such a hard problem when someone's so good defensively like RiSky, but I love the choice here to say, yeah, we're going to open Glaive Adepts, then Dark Templar, and right from the start, he was probing really hard and taking lots of gas. So he always knew it was planned out, where he was like, I'm going to tech up really hard after these Adepts. I'm not really looking to dive just to scare him, get an overreaction. And he just kept progressing from there. It was like, here's Disruptors, here's Archons now, here's Immortals, here's Sentries. Twilight just doing nothing the entire time. No blink, no charge, no forge. Who needs that?
Upgrades?
Who needs it? He's like, hey, I'm hitting a minute faster than you expected. And it was a beautiful timing. Really impressed with that one. I've got to add that to the playbook.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if he can have a repeat performance there and potentially knock RiSky down 2-0. That would be extremely wild and completely against all of our predictions. But guys, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll see if Ranger can close it out 2-0 or if RiSky's going to fight back. Don't go away. Welcome back to what's turning out to be a really spicy series so far between RiSky and Ranger. Ranger, that's right, Ranger is leading 1-0, which is a big surprise. That's not to say that Ranger isn't good. Clearly he is. But when you see someone like RiSky come in, he's awesome, he's qualified before over everybody else, you kind of don't expect it. And I gotta say, I'm a Ranger fan.
Yeah, I mean, that started bad for Ranger as well. He got scouted. He let a Zergling in, got scouted, lost his scouting adept at the same time. RiSky had the perfect counter to his build in the early stage, great control. And Ranger stayed calm. He microed his Dark Templar really well. We saw him just kind of, even though he didn't do a lot of damage with his Dark Templar, he took out about 15 Zerglings, kept them all alive, recycled them as Archons, right? You know, it was really just, it's the control in those fights. And then as soon as the fights got kind of close in the mid game, oh, that prism micro, those disruptor shots, oh, so damned powerful. Continuing to impress me with his development over the last couple of years. He goes from strength to strength, representing Malaysia. This is Ranger.
And the blue Zerg, an absolute titan in his own right. Let's see if he can battle it back. It's RiSky.
Ooh, probe comes in early, but not actually early enough to block. So interesting choice there from Ranger. Whenever I see that, part of me is like, oh, is it going to be like a Forge go down or something? That's an interesting choice. Maybe just a little worried about a 12 pool. And is just going to make sure that he's not in any trouble, be as annoying as he can with the probe. And this is something, you're very good at that probe micro. It does cause a bit of a ruckus, bit of a disruption there as RiSky has to micro his workers just to make sure they stay doubled up on those patches and optimized.
Yeah. See him spam clicking a few of his drones there as well to try and counteract that and win the battle. And we'll see what he comes up with. The thing I like about RiSky is that he doesn't change his style that much. He's, you know, kind of standard Zerg, just gets the 3 hatch, defends on Roachling Ravager, and then he sort of just sees how the game's turning out and goes from there. Often that's all the tech he ever makes. He just sits on that and he's really strong in the mid game, really strong against timings, and he's able to win it. But it seems that Ranger just had that little extra flavor there that helped him take the win.
Indeed, he looked really good with that, but it's a different map, and I think a map where it's a bit harder to attack early on. Not as many paths, you know, much easier 3-base, and just protecting the 4th out front is all that RiSky will have to focus on. So I wouldn't mind a different opening from Ranger, and it looks like indeed it will be the Stargate option this time around. So I wouldn't mind him going back towards that same style, but more on a 3-base stage, right? So, you know, get a Void Ray or 2 out, do a Glaive Adapt timing, but you've got a 3rd up while you're doing it, right? And then you can go into your Disruptors and your Stalkers and play the mid-game out with upgrades and Blink and all the rest. So, and we'll see what Ranger has in store for us, as last game, definitely not the only trick he has up his sleeve.
That's exactly right. He's had a lot of success with the Stargate styles and Stargate opener in the past, so we'll see how we go from here. Got that little probe stashed there at the south. See if he makes any use of that or just uses it to check in later. Adept shading in, trying to get a bit of scouting information as well. Does not commit the shade there.
The Oracle first coming out here from Ranger, so wants to get the pressure going on straight away. Ooh, Adept does take a fair bit of damage there from that Queen. Little unfortunate, does hurt the follow-up. Sixlings coming out, they're not made just yet. But he is going to be conservative with those Adepts, really respecting RiSky and expecting him to be ready for it. Looking for these snipes on the creep and not finding it. RiSky very patient, only spreads it once the Adepts have walked past.
Yeah, really nicely done. Always good to keep control of that creep because RiSky's macro is pretty darn good. And before you know it, that creep is just about on your front doorstep. These Lings managed to catch one of the Adepts on the way home there. Void Ray now in production as well.
Ooh, nice micro here. Does get to the patch, but It's Risky that was on top of things very early here and making it very difficult for Ranger. Ranger microing so well, though. The fact that he didn't just straight up lose both of those adepts is incredible. And he's actually going to get a couple of more workers, so at least 2 drones in total. A bit of mining time, bit of disruption. So that could have been a lot worse, but gets his 3rd down behind it. It's continuing to build adepts. Void Ray is out. And not too bad on either side. Ranger up a couple of workers so far.
Spore coming down at the 3rd for Risky. Just trying to deflect this Oracle. Another couple. Oh, excuse me. 1 drone kill added onto that count for Ranger so far. Keeps the Oracle alive. Gonna let it regen some shields as these few lings come in against these adepts. Actually having to use the Void Ray defensively here, as well as the adepts are not enough to hold on their own. Risky is going to slide those lings out and come back another time.
Losing all these adepts does add up. Ranger's been really kind of inefficient with it. Like, just the number of Zerglings versus adepts that's gone down, it is quite poor for Ranger, because if you got those adepts there, it's just easier to defend the follow-up waves. You can sneak a few more pairs across for follow-up pressure. But like that last warp in was a bit of a panic warp in. He didn't put it in the choke point, and because of that, they got surrounded and went down. So it's starting to be Risky defending, counter pressuring, and little bits of efficiency adding up. It feels like he's pulling ahead in this game.
He's heading up into that lair tech, adding on the gas and the Evo there as well. We'll see what he techs into, if he sticks with the Roachling idea, or if he maybe switches it up, drops a Hydrogen or something like that. We'll see how he goes. He's done a really great job at defending against these Oracles so far. They haven't really been able to do too much, maybe a couple of kills, but certainly haven't been anything to write home about.
Ooh, this one catches him off a little bit. The Zergling's a bit out of position. The drone's unable to get to safety there. And look at that focus fire. 6 workers going down. Very nice. Ranger finally finding a big bit of damage with those 2 adepts. But Risky's already full steam ahead on the droning. That being said, Ranger, oh my god. He's got a proxy gate in the bottom of the map. He's got no model on the way. These Oracles are just trying to set up for a gigantic attack. I mean, this is just going to be no upgrades. Once again, it's just going to be Stalkers. Mortals will come across to join it. The Void Rays and the Oracles are just there to make Risky feel greedy. And you know what? The momentum he's getting, those drone kills, is very important, because Risky, what's he doing? Roach speed, melee, Bane Nest, drones, 4th hatch, queens, drones, queens. None of those things are what you want right now. You want lots of roaches right now. I don't think he has a single roach on this map.
He doesn't really have anything except for this squad of lings, which is now over at Ranger's house, looking for maybe some counter damage here. Immortal's sitting at home, stuck behind its buddy there. But as long as he doesn't take too much damage on the probe line or anything, he's got the air units here to defend. Man.
He chronos his third. He chronos his 3rd as a fake out there. He sees the lings coming, he's like, oh yeah, I'm chrono boosting probes. He wasn't even building probe. But when you see a chrono on the Nexus, you don't notice the other lights flashing or not. That being said, Risky's already at the point where he's building roaches, so I think he's got to get a move on either way. He's got to get this attack going.
Oh no, the door's open. He doesn't have anything here. I think he just warped in too. I don't think... Yeah, only just 1 warp in to save himself there at home. This is going a little bit pear-shaped. 10 roaches about to pop out, but he does get the initial engagement here while there's still not enough units to defend. He's going after the queens.
Oh, the choke point is so dangerous. That force field is absolutely savage. Look, oh, he uses 3 force fields where 1 could have sufficed, though, so a bit inefficient there from Ranger. And remember, he does not have much to support this, right? Prism does arrive, and Immortal arrives. He's doing a lot of damage to the hatch, but right now his army is separated, fighting many different things, mostly the hatchery, which I think is the least important thing. I think for him, he needs to do more than just the hatchery. He needs to kill the army. That should be his goal. That Immortal is just not fighting for Ranger right now. And this one, I think, a little bit of an engagement struggle. The Zealots coming in, though. Can they turn the tide for Ranger?
Oh, drones coming into the fight as well. Hopefully he can at least clean up some workers on his way out here. There's definitely too much from Risky. He might want to, I was going to say maybe right-click on that hatchery because it's so low, but it's not even worth it. He'll lose the Immortal that he has left. He's only saved 3 units out of that, and Risky's on the hunt. He's going to go and do some counter damage with the units he has left over. In fact, he pulls back because Ranger drops these units off. And he's still looking for ways to do damage and keep Risky busy with what he's got left. Back at home, dropping the Disruptor Den and getting another Robo. Also the Forge. But as you said, this is a no upgrade push. And what happens is if you're not successful with it, suddenly you don't have a whole lot going for yourself back at home.
Yeah, and this was such a good surprising push. I love the play from Ranger. I just think not having the unit in the wall and taking a little bit longer to get going than he should have. I do think he didn't need to have the Immortal necessarily. I think just the speed was what mattered, right? Getting forward, walking up and force fielding, but he used so many force fields. His army was separated. He needed to move everything in towards that natural and fight everything at the wall. But he spent over 1,000 hit points hitting the hatchery during the early stage of that battle, even with just his Immortal and a few units. So I do think it was that Zergling run by from RiSky getting in, forcing Ranger to kind of micromanage his economy while the attack at the same time. And a small slip up against a good scrambling response from RiSky to kind of get back to his feet and survive what was an attack that completely blindsided him.
Yeah, and that's a testament to how strong he is as a player to just sort of get his crap together real quick and deal with a push that he basically had no idea was coming. I mean, as you'd pointed out as well, he already was at that time that he was making roaches anyway, which really helped out. But yeah, he's done well for himself. Now he's heading into a 5th base. He's getting a spy, infestation pits finishing up. And Ranger still has that very gateway heavy army, now adding in a bunch of disruptors, and we know how good he is with those. But in terms of upgrades, still lagging behind here a bit.
Yeah, and the supply tells a big story. Basically, if Ranger makes this even a close game, I'm going to be, impressed. I'm going to be very impressed because RiSky could be playing against, Zest right now. Trap, one of the best Protoss players in the absolute world. I'm talking top 2 or 3 players. And I still think RiSky would win. I'd favor him in this situation. He's just got numbers galore. He's got a great economy. Ranger's doing a good job with these Adepts. I feel like this game has just been the story of non-stop Adepts. They're probably quite annoying to deal with here for RiSky, but Ranger has no business being on the other side of the map. He's got to go home. This is a maxed out Zerg army. He's got to be careful.
Yeah, but I think certainly one of his strengths is the constant aggression. And he's trying to play off that here. Disruptor shots going out, but that's a big concave from RiSky. He could actually close in from multiple angles. Banelig's getting right into the meat of that army. A bit of a recall on half of it, but a bunch of Stalkers are left to their doom against all these Lings and Ravagers. And there's not much of a fighting force left for Ranger.
Yeah, definitely trying to play to his strength as an aggressive player with this composition, but I think he needed to adapt to the scenario a little bit more there. To attack at that moment was definitely presenting RiSky with an opportunity, and you don't want to give RiSky any opportunities. He pounces, he pummels that army, gets rid of so much of it so efficiently, and just a really nice play overall there from RiSky. Losing a handful of Lings and Ravagers for a lot of expensive Protoss units, and now in swings the Zerg Hammer. The Muta Swap is underway, and even that Warp Prism going down.
Does get popped there. Ranger continuing to take whatever small fights he can. Very nicely done. We'll pick off a Ravager or 2 there. Still holding on with that 4th base. Muta coming out here.
Muta's rotating to the left while the army rotates up the right side, interestingly. Proxy Gateway somehow still alive on the south of this map. RiSky preparing for a swap into Ultralisks, one of the best units against a Stalker Disruptor composition. Good at just closing the distance with those units and smashing them apart. The Ling Ravager does come in, battery overcharge and massive Disruptor shots needed here for Ranger to hang on, but Baneling's coming in. The Mutas haven't even flown in yet. He's just so busy killing everything with his ground army. RiSky annihilates the worker line on this 4th, comes back in on the 3rd at the same time. The Disruptors are very exposed out front. Oh no.
Oh dear. And he blinks on top just to try and shield them a little bit there at the last minute. He does take out a lot of that force, but RiSky's gone full swarm here, Pig. He's in the 3rd. He's destroyed the 4th. He's in the natural. The Mutas are in the fray now as well. 42 more Zerglings in the production tab. Adrenal almost finished as well. And Ranger is in tatters.
This one did not go as well as the first game. Yet another surprising timing attack. This time RiSky does survive, and once it's RiSky's turn, he's all over the map. Muta's flying around. Ranger once again coming for an attack, his trademark aggressive style, because he's got to try to do something. But RiSky's remaxed. He's already remaxed. That is a ton of Zerg.
Oh man, he's going to get sandwiched here as well. Using force fields to try and ward off the flow of Banelings, but it's still too much. GG comes out. And RiSky fights back, evening it up to a 1-1.
Yep, tying up that series there. Good scramble from RiSky. That was the game where it was like, early on, I felt like he did such a good job dealing with those early Adepts, but it didn't stop. You could really see Ranger's game plan was, it was a mixture of layer upon layer of harassment while trying to make everything look very normal at home, just like that first game, and then bam, that surprise timing just comes out of nowhere. He's already warping in an army on the bottom of the map. What an interesting series of attacks, and I tell you, it's not something that you can get comfortable against as a Zerg player. It's just the right sort of play for a guy like Ranger to be pulling out though as well, because if you let RiSky just go calmly and comfortably to the next stage, you know, he's gonna really punish you. But here, you'll notice there's a lot of red down to the left. Where are those units? They need to be moving up here. This is, I think, the moment where Ranger messed up a little bit. Yes, Overlord kills are nice, Hatchery kill is nice, but his army was just a little too disjointed during this push, and RiSky was so quick at gathering his Roaches and Ravages up. Really well played by RiSky.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? That definitely could have worked. It might have, if RiSky didn't get that run by in, if Ranger had all his stuff together and started that engagement more powerfully rather than being a little bit disjointed there. We saw him panic as well with the force fields in that choke 3 instead of the 1 that he really needed. So still really cool ideas from Ranger, but this is where RiSky is so strong. He's so hard to take out because even at just a moment's notice, he gets in there, he defends, and he runs away with the lead. He's looking really, really good. And, you know, another thing about RiSky as well is that I've heard he hasn't really been practicing all that much. Yeah, I think he maybe took a bit of a break as well. So to still be having this much success, despite maybe just coming back to the game after a bit of hiatus, which happens with a lot of players in the off season, is really, really impressive.
Solid fundamentals never die, I guess. You know, he's still got that good scouting, good game understanding, and still bringing back just really solid defensive Roach play. This is the best way to play it. He was actually trying to be very greedy that game as well, adapting to the Oracle heavy, Adept Ivy sort of play. But at the end, I think just getting the Roaches out barely in the nick of time and handling it quite well. Oh, I'm trying to remember what the final map was actually going to be in this series. Do you recall by any chance?
Nope. It's going to be a surprise. I
cannot remember for the life of me. So just like, maybe Oxide?
Blackburn. It's going to be Blackburn. Thanks, production. Got a box.
Ooh, legends. Blackburn. Yes. Awesome. This should be fun then. So this is a map where that kind of choked up paths along the south of the map. Something which the Zergs do tend to struggle on a little bit here. There is a gold base. I do not expect it to come into play until they're taking their 4th bases, just with the way both of these guys play. But yeah, at this point, the big thing I kind of look at is, okay, Ranger's done very surprising unupgraded gateway timings. That's essentially what it's been. It's been this kind of like early mid-game stage. I've got 3 bases, but bam, surprise you. Do we see round 3 of that? We see a drastic change up. I am very curious because I think if he wants to go away from those surprising attacks, it's probably going to be the Glaive Adepts into like kind of game 1, but have the Forge, have the Blink. You know, it's more of like a more non-surprising disruptive Blink play. If he does do another gateway timing, well, I have a feeling RiSky's going to be like scouring the map, double checking with Overseers, really trying to see what's coming.
Yeah, fool me once. You know, I don't think, you know, will 3 in a row work? Because that's kind of his thing at the moment from what we've seen so far, is these surprising builds that no one's really doing. Like, who plays like that in this region? I really can't think of anyone that does that. So
it kind of reminds me of like Haas, and then it's just it's something where you're like, oh well, you know what, this is so hard to scout because it looks so normal on paper. It's just, oh, look at this unit set attacking at this timing. You kind of go, well, that just doesn't look good, but it's so much misdirection. It looks so normal. There's these kind of like, you know, little things that are hard to notice that are missing. It reminds me a lot of Haas's plays. It's like, I guarantee your opponent hasn't practiced against this build, and that's kind of the situation they go into. They're like, I can't really get practice for this player. I need to really be on my toes. I can't settle into some sort of like muscle memory rhythm. Sorry, bumping my mic. Where I just kind of know each step before it happens. So a lot of the time, the player on the defense does get in their own head here. So I think it'll be a bit of a test for RiSky. Can he kind of stay focused on the right things in the very important deciding match?
Yeah, and so far so good. On short notice, he has made a really good effort at the defense. Game one didn't go his way, but game two did. He definitely has the skills to pay the bills here, and this is the final map here for Group B. Folks will be figuring out whether it's going to be RiSky or Ranger advancing into the playoffs. So make sure you channel extra hard for your favorite here. In the bottom right, hailing from Malaysia, this is Ranger.
Asian Ranger. And in the bottom left, hailing from the New Zealand and the UK, in the blue, it's RiSky.
Still loving the decal.
Oh yeah, every time I feel like I'm just getting lost in Seether's eyes. You know?
It's easy to.
It's almost, you know, I think there's an aura when someone is that good at Terran, and RiSky knows and admires it. As said that he does regret not picking the ultimate master race sometimes, but it's stuck his way as a Zerg and does play very well as it.
That's exactly right. Probe Scout in here already for Ranger once again. Maybe do a little bit of mineral harassment. Be a little bit cheeky.
Morning pool gas on the way in the main for RiSky. Nexus is on the way for Ranger into that Cybercore afterwards. So pretty standard openings on both sides. Kind of what I expected on this map. I definitely feel like it's a disruptor-friendly map with this bottom path. It's kind of easy to, when you're pushing the Zerg, get them pressed up against the wall. So I do expect if it goes to the mid game, I think RiSky's going to try and kind of tear the rocks down in the middle and open up those kind of sight blocky paths on both of those, yeah, so that, you know, it's just so crowded otherwise without those. But you take those two sets of rocks down, can be really good. Oh, and actually, as we get a shot of the bottom base, that reminds me, I think it was Parting who opened DT drop on this map the other day, and he said, you know what, let's drop a probe in that base at the bottom and take a Nexus at the same time. And it was actually going really well for him. I think he ended up losing the game, but I just thought, oh, that's so clever. You know, the other player's like, oh, there's a 2 base all incoming. They're making all these units. They're freaking out a little bit. And he's like, yep, I've got a secret base. It's not technically an island because you can break down the rocks to get in there, but it's definitely very hard to assault.
Yeah, that's a huge brain strategy, especially if you don't notice right away, and then you still gotta chew through the rocks before you can actually attack into it, and the player gets plenty of warning that you're coming for him. So, yeah, interesting. And Ranger hasn't opted for the Stargate here or anything. He's gone straight into Twilight and Robo, and RiSky has an Overlord making a beeline for that spot as well.
The Adepts have been spectacularly well defended in this series. Ranger really not finding any purchase at all, and once again Adept is pressed back without finding any damage. Quick Robo on the way there for Ranger. Did a Twilight Council already go down, or was it just straight into the Robo? Because, okay, there we go. I was waiting for the 150 gas, that's it. I was like, why is the Glaives not starting? Okay, DT drop.
He heard you. He was like, hey, you know what, Pig? I saw that part in game 2 and I felt really inspired. That's so funny. You should bring it up.
I hope so. I really hope we see that. I thought it was so cool. If the Zerg doesn't happen to have an Overlord there and they don't realize for a while, it's just confusing. I seen a few Zerg players take the gold base from the back as well, is another cute one in this matchup where the Protoss is going to go, where is your base? Like, what is going on here? It's like, well, I'm mining the gold base from the back side of it. Can't get access to the gas, but don't need it. Nonetheless, this is a classic DT build. None of these really fast 3-gate ones where they make it look like adapts. This is just straight up, Prism goes across, warp in for Dark Templar, and obviously see if you can do damage and then go straight into the Archon. So it's very well timed so far by Ranger. Prism does get spotted by RiSky Zergling. What detection does he have? Does he have a Spore in the main?
Exactly 0 detection, Pig. He doesn't have the lair or anything. He got the Roach Warren nice and early, but he's only just now slapping down those spores. They will be ready by the time the DTs come in here. And in fact, the Queens are already in position, so he's going to have to warp this in and get out.
Dangerous, 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 but pays off at least for now, and that the Prism does survive. And going down towards the natural, can the Prism get back in there? This is not a very good getaway car, let me tell you that. This is not the getaway car that you want. You better have Baby Driver in there or something, because that thing is very fragile.
Yeah, the Adepts swing in again. He's really good with those 2 Adepts. Oh no, the Prism! Oh, bro. What a clinch.
Oh. Yeah, he likes to dance on the dangerous side here. The Adepts coming in, not quite finding too much, but actually, no, 5 drones. Not bad, not bad. And the DT still being annoying. I'd like to see him slow down and go to Archons now. He's caused a big disruption as Ranger into Immortals and charge, and 3 more gateways. We're seeing another timing, Zeph. And you know what? I think we're going to see a 3rd base, but it's going to be a fake. A round of sentries and just a big Archon Immortal charge up. This is just an old school, straight up, quick timing attack. So far, RiSky is droning. He's got to put that Nexus down to trick him, though. No Nexus starting yet. That means I think RiSky might get wind of this.
So far, still going with the droning and trying to defend. Pick up the Archon. Man, he really wastes the last second with that stuff. He's stressing me out, but he's doing it so well. 2nd Archon now on the morph here on this little high ground location. And yeah, still no 3rd. RiSky camped out the front, so he's got vision. He's looking for that 3rd base, being like, seriously?
Yeah.
And if he keeps seeing no base, I mean, he's already got 4 Overlords on the way. It's going to see him start pumping out some roaches.
Ooh, goes in with the Lings. We'll get 1 sentry, but... Oh, well, Stalker goes down as well. Gets a few Zergling kills. Does Ranger there. Ranger has a pretty powerful, meaty army, but there's no real supporting act here. It is just Archons, Immortals, and Zealots. This is a pretty basic army, and he's going to have to micro it very well. Now, he is going to try and cause trouble in the main, actually. He's got Archons joining at the front, Archons in the main. He might even warp Zealots up here as well. This is a good way to really make it hard for your opponent to micro their Ravages correctly. Those Immortals are about to crash through on the front. Archons and Zealots in the main at the same time. This is a hard situation for RiSky. Tries to focus down the Archons, but the Zealots are doing great in the main base.
There's a lot happening at once here. A powerful force down the bottom. It's not that big, but there's a couple of juicy Immortals. There's a few Archons in the mix as well, and he's trying to find the opportune engagement. A couple of force fields go down on that ramp there, and they're actually like a little bit staggered there, so there's still some roaches able to attack from the ramp as well, but he's moving in towards that 3rd base location, closing the distance, getting on top of those roaches. He's starting to force RiSky right back behind that mineral line pig. Is he doing it?
Oh, this Immortal is killing so many roaches in the natural right now. The Zealots on the 3rd are doing it. I think he's broken through. This all comes off the back of Ranger's Prism Micro. That's really it. It is the way he kept those DTs in there so long. Those Archons kept finding damage. Those Depths kept finding damage. And he sets it up perfectly. Oh, yes. The celebration there from Ranger. You can see the relief. Just excellent, excellent Prism control.
Unreal.